last year I've just been working on diving in and just not, like, living in the moment.
Yeah.
Making sure that anytime we want to go do something, we're not waiting for the perfect moment or waiting for this has to be right. We have to have this in place before we go do this or take this trip. And this last year we've just really focused on, if we want to take the trip, we're going to go do the trip.
Hello. So everything's hot with the exception of the audio. Audio is going to be a little bit different this time because lots of complications, but we're going to work around it. That's all right. We have Emily Sherwood here with us. This is episode 50. And actually just this week we were talking that 52, so we've done one per week. So 52 will be 1 year. So you're 2 episodes away from us having this podcast for 1 year. But we have Emily Sherwood here. Me and Emily connected on, I went to high school with her husband. And so she is going to tell us a little bit about what she does and your background and all of that. But first, normally we start with a review, but I don't have my phone due to the technical complications. So we're gonna skip the review. And if you haven't left us a review, please go leave us a review. We are gonna move on to peak and pit. So something that's going really well, something that's not going so well. Something that's going really well for me is we've kind of like changed around the dynamic of the office really just within like the past week or two. And I feel like everyone is kind of like honing in on their thing. And I feel like we're figuring it out. Like we've been in business for 2 years, but it's still not perfect.
Yeah.
Like we're still figuring out things. And so I feel like we are closer to having it figured out, even though
getting that rhythm.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know that we'll ever like quote unquote have it figured out, but it feels better than it did 2 years ago. So what is your peak? What's going really well for you?
I would say my peak for this year, it's something my husband and I over the last year have just been working on diving in and just not, like, living in the moment.
Yeah.
Making sure that anytime we want to go do something, we're not waiting for the perfect moment or waiting for this has to be right. We have to have this in place before we go do this or take this trip. And this last year we've just really focused on, if we want to take the trip, we're going to go do the trip.
Yeah.
And that even applies with work. Like,
and you guys just went somewhere.
Yeah, we did a
Fun
2.5 week Europe trip.
Long and fun.
Much needed.
Yeah.
But it was amazing.
That's so cool. Yeah. Me and Jake are going to do like a more tropical Cancun vacation later this year, and I'm very much looking forward to it. But I love that. I have very much also been trying to be in the present, not so worried about like what's happening in the future, what happened 5 years ago. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, just be here. Actually, this tattoo literally says be here now, because that's all we have.
Yeah.
You can't do anything with tomorrow unless you're here today. So I love that. Kudos to you guys.
You can't keep looking to what's coming. You gotta live for now.
Yeah.
You've gotta
Absolutely.
enjoy it.
Absolutely. I love that. Pit. Presently, my pit is all of this technology giving me a hard time. So this episode is giving me a hard time. And then the episode with the owner of Brick and Mirth, which is oddly enough is funny how that's actually how this whole podcast episode stemmed, was we were at Brick and Mirth and talking, and I'm like, oh my God, you have to come and tell all this stuff on podcast because this is amazing. Yeah, technology. But we're going to figure it out. One way or the other, we're going to figure it out. Yeah. What's your pit?
I think my pit right now, and it's been something through my whole life, is just I tend to be a people pleaser. I tend to care.
Yeah.
What people think about me. It doesn't necessarily mean like that I will like change who I am to make someone like me. It's just more of like it affects me emotionally.
Yeah, 100%.
And like personal life, at work. I think work's always the worst because like sometimes I have to be the bad person.
Yeah.
And doing that it hurts me.
Yes. I'm literally kind of dealing with the same situation right now. Like, it's so hard, especially when you are a people pleaser and a giver in that way, you know?
Yeah.
I read a quote recently that said like, givers, make sure you have boundaries because the takers don't have any.
Yeah.
I felt that.
Yes.
I felt that. That is so true. But that's so good that you're working on that. Me and Janie, one of our teammates here in the office, we did an episode, I don't remember what number it was, but we literally talked about that. We talked about people pleasing and how it's such a like weird dynamic to have your boundaries and put them in place and simultaneously not feel bad about it and not feel guilty. It's hard, but we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna figure it out. I'm reading a book right now, or no, I finished it. It's called The 4 Agreements, and he talks about how humans are the only animal that punish themselves over and over and over. Mm-hmm. So like an animal out in the wild, like if they make a mistake, they kind of, it like in that moment, that's how they're punished. Like if they come across a critter that, you know, doesn't like them, maybe they get bit and then that's the end of it. But we like cyclically, in our mind, and we are the only like animal that does that. And so I like, I feel that one too.
Sometimes I think like I think females like also tend to like hold on to that longer too, or to care more like what you do impacting someone else. Like you hold that
100%. Oh, I feel that 100%. Yeah, and we just gotta figure it out. Once again, we just gotta figure it out. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing, because again, the conversation at Brick and Mirth and you kind of filling me and Jake in, we had gone to a performance so Dustin Mounts has a brother, Hunter Mounts. We went to a performance of his, and then we ended up at like the after party, I guess, at Brick and Mirth here in town. And you were filling me and Jake in on all the things that you've got going on, all the things that you're dealing with in your work life. And it was kind of effing awesome. So fill us in on, I want to hear the backstory, like why and how you ended up doing what you're doing. And what you're currently doing.
Okay. So I'm a project manager. Mm-hmm. I work for a general contractor based out of Kansas City, McCown Gordon Construction, if anyone's familiar with the company. Yeah. But I actually got into construction when I was in high school. My dad has actually he's retired now, a union carpenter. So always saw construction growing up. I've always been a girly girl, so it's not like I, growing up, was like, oh, I'm gonna go be a contractor. So I got to high school and I was like, well, I want to do business. I want to do business management. I'm gonna go to college for business management.
That's pretty cool.
What did that mean? I didn't know, so I was working on job shadowing my senior year. My dad was on a project, and it was actually with McCown Gordon Construction where I work now. Mm-hmm. And he was like, there's this female project manager. He was like, I don't know exactly what she does. She's a project manager. She runs the project. Here's her card. Like, I asked her if you could call her. So I just cold called this girl. I was like, hey, I'm a senior in high school. So I'm 26.
No, I mean, 27. No, like at the time when you're making this phone call.
I would have been 16. So I was in high school and I was like, I'm just going to call this woman. Like, I'll see what she does. So I called her and I was like, hey, here's my dad, you work with him right now. And she's like, oh, cool, Mark. Yeah, he said he was going to give you my number. So I called her and I was like, hey, can I job shadow? Like, can I come down to Kansas City and see what you do? So here I'm 16 and like you can get a pass in high school. Hey, I got the day off. I'm going to go job shadow and figure out what I'm going to do. So I drove to Kansas City, followed my dad to work that morning, and just hung out with her all day.
Wow. And the level of, in my opinion, this is just me, but the level of confidence that you have to just like straight up, hey, so word on the street is, and I'd like to be a part of it.
I was like, I have no idea your background. I have no idea how you got to this job, what this job requires. I just want to check it out.
God, that is very
like at
impressive.
That point, I didn't even know like the college route you had to take, or if you had to take college route. I was like, I'm just gonna see what she does.
That is so cool. Okay, I'm sorry.
So props to my dad. My dad was the one that had that initial setup there.
Of course, props to dad, but also dad, props to Emily, because that takes courage to just like call someone, because she could have said no, she could have said piss off, she could have said you're too young, she could have said so many things. Yeah, and you did it anyway. Yeah, that's so cool.
So I job shadowed her that day and was like, wow, this is kind of neat. So I think I'm gonna do this for my career. So just dove right in. I did my associates first. So I got just like a regular associate's degree, then transferred over to construction management at UCM. So I finished my bachelor's. From there, I did a couple internships when I was in college, and then got hired on full-time with McCown Gordon. And then I did end up doing my master's after I'd started work. So I finished my master's in 2020, which took like 2.5 years.
That's kind of fast for a master's, isn't it?
It's typically 2 if you're full-time.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I thought maybe it was like 4 years.
Yeah, so your associate's is 2, bachelor's is 4, master's is 2, and then doctorate is 4.
Okay. So you're finishing school, then what?
So got out of school. I had interned with a couple of different companies. So I tried one company. The company I worked for first, I did a project engineer route, which is more in line with what I do now. And then I did another internship in college, and it was estimating. So same route of construction, working for a general contractor, but doing estimating. So I wanted to try a couple internships, see what role I liked best. And
you apply that to your job now?
Yes.
The estimating portion?
Yes.
So what we talked about?
Yeah, in project management, you deal with a lot of costs.
Okay. So you're interning. Now what? How did you get to doing what you're doing now? And I know you said you can't say like the name, can you?
We have an NDA for like the client that I'm working with right now, but I can talk about like what the project is.
Okay, cool.
So out of college, I joined on 2017 is when I started working full time, and I got into small projects. So I was doing anywhere from like $1 million to $6 million projects, and that's small for commercial. Commercial is a lot different, like residential.
I love how she's like, we were doing like these small. We were just working on these small projects, like $1 to $6 million.
What I deal with like for values at work like ruins personal life money, because I'm like at work I'm like $20,000. I don't blink, like it's. And then like personal life, we're like okay.
Oh my lord. Okay, please continue. This gets better.
So I started small projects, and then I just got comfortable with like running small projects, and then they just kind of
$1 to $6 million
gradually got bigger. So the last few I did, I was anywhere from 10, 15. So 15 had been my max, 15 million.
Okay, hold on. Let's pause here. What does a $15 million project look like?
So the $15 million project I did previously was Linwood Elementary, out in Kansas. Okay. So it was a brand new like empty land elementary.
And what was
school.
what's the square footage on that?
That one was about 30,000.
So a home. Most of the homes that we live in probably range anywhere from like 1,500. Maybe on a bigger home, it's like 6,000 square foot. Yeah, that's a decent sized home. 6,000 square foot, and you're dealing with a 30,000 square foot commercial sized building. Yep. Anyway, keep going.
And there's a lot that goes to it. Like you can do all different ranges of projects. So like you can be doing a school one year, and the next year you're doing an office building. So also knowing like there's different things that go into this.
Sure, absolutely.
So after I finished that project, the project that I'm currently on is now 10 times that size. It's 150 million. Still growing. We're still adding scope to it. We're still adding in new things that the client wants, but it's based in Bentonville, Arkansas, and it is actually a 380 acre campus for one of the largest retailers in the nation. It is crazy.
To put it mildly.
Yes.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
150 million, what does that type of project look like from a square footage standpoint?
So this building is 100,000 square feet. Yeah.
So it's basically, the other was 30. What's my math here? It's like 30 to 150. How many times is that? 5. So 5 of the...
Yes. Well, and
5 elementary schools.
And one thing that like increases that number a lot from the square footage is like an elementary school, like they're not gonna put in like Italian carpet or
luxurious.
The finishes, like luxurious.
Absolutely.
So this is a large retailer. This is their home campus. So they're gonna have executive members in this building. Wow. This is like their showroom our
This
execs
is
are
like
in this building.
Okay. So this is like of all the retailers for this particular company, this is like V1
Yes.
to be at.
It is named after their founder, our building specifically. So there's going to be some really cool features in the building that's related to their founder,
like the Italian
first,
carpet.
yeah, his first airplane. We're putting that in the building. So
you're joking.
We're literally hanging an airplane in the building.
Not only is it going to be inside the building.
I thought the client was joking when they came in. They came in one day in a meeting and they were like, "Hey, so this area right here, we're going to see if you guys can put in this airplane. Like, we're going to hang it from the ceiling. That's why we have these strong point hangers." And we're like, "Are we sure that those you can hang a building from that?"
Okay, not only are we putting an airplane inside the building, like that's okay. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
You're going to hang it.
Yeah.
From the ceiling.
It's not just like rolled in on the floor.
Wow. Okay. So that is the, like, just to paint a picture of the level of, like, the magnitude of project that you're working on. Like 5 elementary schools. And that's a big, I mean, I feel like that's a big elementary school.
Yeah.
Elementary schools could be small.
Yeah.
That's a big elementary school. Linwood?
Yes.
Linwood is in Kansas City?
It's in Kansas.
Kansas,
so
okay.
Do you know where Baser, Kansas is?
I do, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know.
Okay, so it's outside of, like, Legends area.
Okay, so, again, my point remains the same.
Yep.
Big elementary school.
Yep.
That is so cool. So going back to your peak. No, your pit.
Yep.
You're kind of like trying to deal with figuring out people pleasing, and you mentioned like applying that to work.
Yep.
Where in the workplace have you like had to encounter this or face this struggle, and like how do you deal with it?
I think the worst. So project management, we're dealing with the hottest topics, the hard topics in construction.
Yeah.
So we're the ones having the discussion about schedule, contract, budget, cost, all the super hot items that can really get people upset or get people defending themselves.
Emotional,
definitely. Especially dealing with costs. Like, you're dealing with the client with costs. We have subcontractors. They're trying to make money too.
Yeah.
So having those conversations of sometimes contracts aren't as simple as people think. You always think construction and you're like, oh, you just hire someone and they just automatically will have everything. And that's not always the case. Like, sometimes you'll have a subcontractor come in and it's like, we truly didn't carry this in the number that we have. So it's always that line of like, I'm the bad guy that's either going to tell you, sorry, we assume like the way the contract was written, you have it, or I'm gonna go to bat for you and try to get you the money for it. And sometimes we can't always do that. And that's one of the hardest things about being on the general contractor side is sometimes you have to be that person and go off the contract. So having that versus the relationship side of it is sometimes hard.
So as the general contractor, are you responsible for putting all of the right people in place to execute, like, let's say you guys are doing brick. The whole thing is brick. You're responsible for finding what are they called? Masonry? Finding that person, making sure that their cost fits in the budget, and then making sure that they execute the job.
And that's like the handoff between estimators and project management. So like our estimators will do like the initial, they'll pull in subcontractors, and usually on larger projects like this, you have your project managers involved in that step as well. So it's not just a full handoff. Like you're helping write the contracts, you're helping select people. Depends on the contract type too. Some clients, they'll go, hey, this is our total budget, you fill whoever with it. Some of them want to do like low bid. So that'll be where it's like, I don't care qualification, as long as they're okay, like I'll do the lowest cost.
Okay. Why? Because they want
just a lower cost. I mean, everyone wants to spend less money if they can. So.
Okay. Is that contractor just trying to get the job?
Yeah. A lot of times, like, you'll see in the commercial world, like, just smaller contractors, like, trying to get in. So, like, occasionally they'll be like, if I lower my price and I can get in with a company that's big in Kansas City and do a good job, and then they'll use me.
I guess, they can put that on their door. They can put that on their resume, I suppose, that they were a part of this project. That's pretty cool. So whenever you're in a situation where you've got to give bad news,
Yep.
what does that look like? And has there ever been a time where someone didn't respond well?
I'll just say this, like, construction can be a little wild. It's definitely different than it used to be back in the day. Like, you always picture construction, you're like all these like men yelling at each other in a room. Sometimes it still happens.
Sure.
It's definitely not like what it used to be, but we try not to escalate it if we don't have to.
Oh, sure.
A lot of the time, it's like in a project like this, we've been all working together over a year now, so we already have a relationship.
Sure.
So going into those conversations tends to be a lot easier.
Yeah.
Versus if you had just met this subcontractor, this owner, and fresh out of the gate, you're having to deliver news like that.
Yeah.
Where like now it's a year, we've been working together for a year, like we have a good relationship. It's a lot easier to have those conversations.
Yeah. I love that. What have you learned in your career that you can immediately apply to your personal life? We watch in our office, Grant Cardone. He's a sales teacher, essentially. He's really big. I don't know if you're familiar with him at all, but he's also big into real estate. And we watch him every morning. And I oftentimes am, even though this is, about sales and it's directly related to business more often than not, I can also take a lot of what he's saying and apply it to my personal life too. Have you found that anything is relatable in that capacity?
I think so much, like, personal life
Sorry.
for my career, like, has just really like shaped me into who I am now.
Yeah.
Like, there's good and bad. Like, I think it's hardened me more as a person, but in a good way, because like I said, I've always been like the softie. So I think it's like helped develop my emotions of like I'm like stronger than I was looking back in high school.
For sure.
College, like I just have like a stronger emotion.
Okay, I love that. that. Is there anything? One of the primary reasons I wanted to have you on the podcast is because of the magnitude of project that you're dealing with, and historically it's been a male-dominated industry. And you're a female. You kind of followed another female that was, and you kind of looked to her, and I just wanted to hear, your perspective on that and give you a chance to voice what you're doing to viewers, to anybody that sees this, whether it's 5 people or 1,000 people. Is there anything really important that you want to share that you've learned, or just anything at all, really?
I think the biggest thing is don't be scared to do something you want to do based off of like being a female or a male dominated field. I feel like in my career it's always something like you're very intimidated. Anything like going into. And I used to be like initially scared, like when I would walk the job site, because you're gonna have people look at you like you're a female on a job site, and not saying that there's not females on every job site, but you stick out. And I at first like felt weird about it. Like I felt like when I was working a job site, I didn't like people looking at me. And as I've gotten further in my career, I actually have realized like how much it has benefited me. People remember my name easier. I can walk into a room and like, not that the attention is always a great thing, but like I can get people's attention a little bit easier in a meeting if I talk. So just like taking that and understanding it's not always a bad thing.
Oh, 100%. One of my, business insurance, again, primarily a male dominated industry, and I came from dentistry, and dentistry is primarily female, especially on I was a hygienist, and then of course the assistants in that field are oftentimes female. So I came from a female dominated industry, came into a male dominated industry, and one of my things that I'm really passionate about, or concepts that I'm really passionate about, is I don't really like this story of women feeling sorry for themselves. Woe is me, and this is what I've dealt with. It's like, man, we've all got it. Like,
I mean, any career, like I think you've got that.
I think any person, like, men, they have things that they deal with. They have stories that they've been through that they don't tell anybody about, as do women. And I think it's just a sympathy party to sit around and us feel sorry for themselves. And so I love the fact that you're looking at your situation and going, no, there are things that I can benefit from this. And I think that is so cool. That's such a great perspective to have. And for anybody that is, you know, looking to be a part of, I think construction is cool. I like more the design stuff in construction, but for anybody that is a female and is interested in project management, like, I think you are setting such a good tone and example for any woman that wants to be involved in construction at all. So kudos to you, and thank you for leading the way with such a great attitude. I love that so much. It's my favorite.
And I think one thing that I was thinking about this morning and before like coming here is just how many role models I've had and people in my corner. And that means the most. Like for any career, I've just had some incredible role models. Like I still keep in contact with the female that I initially job shadowed. I went to a conference with her to San Francisco about a month or two ago. She's still actively in my life.
Very much,
for the same company. And then like outside of her, like I've had the most incredible managers like coming out of my career, like coming out of college, that always have my back. And I've had one of like the males in my life of like work life of I've called him crying, and I have that support. So having like those people that are like 100% like on your side, like I like even on this job, like, and it changed like coming out of college. Like when I first came out of college, I would cry like once a month, like driving from work.
It's not funny.
I know.
Sorry, it's not funny.
I was just talking about this the other day with one of my coworkers, and like coming out of college, like I was 21 starting work full time, and I used to be so much more emotional because stuff would get to me. Like I'd have a subcontractor yell at me or get mad about something, so I would cry, but like I would never do it. Like people would never see it work. I'd run to the bathroom, just a quick cry, right back out,
quick panic attack, and back to work.
So like, let it out, and then I'm good to go. So I got over that like the first few years. But then like recently, this project has been insane. Like it's been the hardest job I've ever been on. And
rightfully so.
Yes.
It's big.
Yes. Like that, and then just like the personal life of like I'm away from my husband. We're living completely separate right now. So like that plus the magnitude of this job. So this winter I had called my fellow co-worker and mentor, and he knew that I was having issues. And I just call him one morning, and I'm so upset that I couldn't even talk. Like I just had to sit there, and he goes, Emily, there's no crying in construction. And I was like, I'm sorry, but I need to.
Today there is.
I was like, you know me, and I need this.
Man, that's so cool. And I think that's such another really good point to make. Like, sure, it's, you know, to be a strong, independent, you know, confident woman is great. And also simultaneously know that you are going to need support sometimes. Having those people like you can be vulnerable with and you can trust. And, like, you know that they're in your corner. You know that they have your back. They want what's best for you. So he's gonna tell you, you know, wipe your tears, let's get up and keep it moving. I love that so much. I think that's honestly it's critical.
Like the people in my life, it's just having those people in my corner, and like even my husband, like I'll call him during work, and we talk about work way too much because he also has a very similar job to me. We're both in construction, so we'll call each other in the day and just be like, this just happened, this sucks. So we like allow ourselves like a little bit of time to talk about work, which I'm sure you guys can relate to. Is like at some point you have to
absolutely
only so much work time.
Absolutely. I try to, and it doesn't always work out like this, but I try to tell Jake, I'm like, okay, we have to shut it off at like 8:00 so we can have just like me and you, and sometimes we're good at it and sometimes we're not good at it. I had someone else on the podcast a while back, I can't remember who brought it up and who mentioned it, but they have a specific room in their house. It was Devon West and Andrea West. They were saying that they have a specific room in their house. They work together, real estate agents, also flip houses, so kind of construction. Anyway, they have a room in their house where they don't talk about work. So anytime they're in their in that, and I don't even know if it's their room, but in that particular room, they don't talk about work. And I'm like, man, that's a really good idea too. And yeah, it's ebbs and flows, and sometimes you need more emotional support one day. And I also love the point that you made earlier that, you know, you've gotten better at these like emotional things that you've had to deal with. Like you said, you've gotten better with dealing with having like going to the bathroom, dealing with your emotions, and then stepping out of the bathroom. I feel like I definitely had, particularly in dentistry, I had a lot of moments where I worked for a female doctor, and she was pretty abrasive. She was a pretty abrasive personality. And there were several times where I would end up in the bathroom crying because it was just a lot for my sensitive 18-year-old self to deal with.
Yeah, it's definitely an age thing.
But I feel like I'm so grateful for it, and I can laugh about it now because it's like that has helped me not take things so personally.
Yeah.
Like, just because she's being crabby, like, girl, you go be crabby.
Yes.
I'm gonna stay over here.
Yes.
You be crabby.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna have a good time.
Yeah.
And it's okay. So I'm so grateful for those experiences, and
it's definitely a mix of age and experience.
Oh yeah.
Because like the age thing, definitely noticed a difference. Like once I got a few years in out of college.
Yeah.
But then also the experience. Like I remember the first few times that I would have something that either like the client or the archetype would just like tear apart something I did and just like put me on blast, send an email copy and like everyone important in our company, and I would just not be well. And then now you could not upset me from an email. Like I'm like, oh, you have these comments? Okay, let me fix it. We're good.
Yeah,
to go. Like,
that's so good.
It took time of just getting email after email or conversation of just like pointing something out that I did wrong.
Yeah.
And now it's like, okay, like I'll fix it. Thank you for the feedback.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, I think that really does come from experience, kind of having your ego poked at for so long. It's like, fine, just forget it. Just forget it all. That's so good. I love that. So I love, honestly, my favorite thing that we've talked about is like your growth and how you've, and I feel like, even if you're not in a male dominated industry and you're in there as a woman or vice versa, you're in a female dominated industry. I worked with a couple of male dental hygienists, very, very like rare. I mean, only 2 of them in my 7 years.
I've ever like at my dentist.
Yeah. Very, very rare. I feel like we all ultimately have to deal with these things. And so to just kind of, like your coworker said, pick yourself back up and let's keep it moving. I think that's really good advice. That's my favorite.
Like, you can do this.
You can do this. Today doesn't feel like it, but that's okay. Tomorrow it'll feel better.
Yes.
So that's so good. Everything that we've talked about has been honestly awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for the conversation.
Oh my God, yes, of course. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining. I would love to have you on in the future after this project is complete, so you can share like anything else that you've learned, because we're still in it every day, me included in insurance. Like, I'm gonna look back in a year and I'm gonna think, oh my God, wow, I was a dummy last year.
And it's always a good, like, it's easier to accept when it's you giving yourself the feedback.
Versus someone else, like, please, for the love of God, don't hurt my feelings. So anyway, yes, thank you so much for coming on. This was so good. This is such a good episode. This is probably going to be one of my favorites, not gonna lie. So thank you so much for coming on.